in the 06010.
Hello and welcome into Fantasy Focus Football. It is Wednesday.
Yeah,
October
nailed it.
4th. Today's show is presented by Geico. Switch to Geico. See all the ways that you could save. My name is Daniel Dopp here with Mike Clay and Field Yates. Guys, I crushed that open.
It was really well done.
That felt good to
You
me.
got the day right, and that's
date-
really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Just get the information right.
That
As long as
means
you
that-
get that across.
We're starting on a good foot here. That's what I feel like. I got us onto a good path. That means we can have a good show because I started us off strong.
So, we just received the kickoff, opening play. We were in a little play action.
That's right.
We had Jamison Williams over the linebackers in front of the safeties, pick up 27 yards, first and 10. The ball is already almost at midfield. How's that for a football
feels
analogy?
great.
Yeah, baby.
Do you have the script for this week?
That's
the
what it
first
is.
play?
That's the script.
Well, I
Lions
can't
first play this
reveal
week?
anything further, but yes, I do.
That's it.
So,
That's it. Field has the script.
who do they play again this week?
The Detroit
Panthers.
Lions?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Panthers. Right.
Carolina
So
Panthers.
Panthers be ready for a 27-yard gain to the 47.
No Shaq Thompson, right?
Oh,
He's
22
out.
gain.
So
Yeah.
that opens up that center of the field there.
Yeah.
That could be it.
Did you guys see the Panthers are apparently trying to trade for a wide receiver? Did you guys see that? It's reported.
I did.
You know who would be? You know who's good?
DJ Moore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
DJ.
it'd
is
be
good.
great.
It was. I mean, it was a layup. But yeah.
Yeah, well done right there. Anyways, I digress. Let's talk about the football show.
Yeah, we're going to dive into a bunch of fun football stuff today. We have a rankings reaction, obviously, for week 5, and we are going to do a really fun exercise.
I'm
Here
looking
we
forward
are.
to this.
We're going to redraft the top of the first round here in fantasy. So much has changed through 4 weeks of the NFL season. So we're going to do a full redraft of the first round, see who it is that we would be taking if we were redrafting today. Just a fun conversation.
I don't think it's a bad idea to do this maybe one more time at midseason as well, just to give people an idea of how things have changed and how many players have really skyrocketed up the board versus how many players have really plummeted from that first round. Not a ton of names that you weren't expecting to be mentioned in that top 10 conversation, but a couple of names that are omitted that I think people are stunned are not part of the top 10.
You did text me you couldn't get Jordan Love in your top 10, and I know that was tough for you
It
because
was.
you really wanted
I know.
to.
I mean, there was some consternation last night, but I eventually settled on Sam Howell over Jordan Love. You'll find out exactly where in the top 10 he lands.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important because there's trade offers flying all over the place. And
Everywhere.
people are, Puka Nacua or Jamar Chase. Who do you want going forward? I mean, a couple weeks ago, that would have been crazy talk. Now it's like, if the Bengals are going to be a disaster and Joe Burrow could maybe miss time at some point, it's a question. So
Huge question.
we'll talk about it.
All right, so let's dive into some rankings. You already talked about Jamar Chase. It's like you read the script reading into the show. First off, I
also
really
have the script.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for looking at the show note for once before we get in here. Let's talk about Josh Dobbs and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, this is my call, so I'll take the lead here to start.
Speaking
James.
of things we
Just
didn't think we'd be
ridiculous.
talking about.
So I just want to take people. I want to enter the mind of somebody that maybe has Joe Burrow as their starter, and is maybe contemplating benching him for Josh Dobbs. One of the things that we talk about all the time in the beginning portion of the season is you never bench your stars, right? You don't overthink it.
Don't get
One
cute.
bad week, don't get cute.
Yep.
We're now 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, it's a good sample.
Do we think
4
that we
weeks.
have passed the point where you can start to get what some would call cute here?
Joe Burrow's not cute anymore.
He's got the hair. He's a good-looking dude. I'd say
Joe
so.
Burrow
Yeah,
is not cute
Yeah, it is
anymore.
not.
There you
So,
go.
as somebody who does have the opportunity to play Josh Dobbs over Joe Burrow, this is a real decision that I am making myself, and I wouldn't be surprised if others are making this decision. Maybe not necessarily Burrow versus Josh Dobbs, but Burrow for somebody else that you would have never thought would be your starting quarterback in fantasy in week 5. But I don't think it's that wild, and I get it. The matchup, again, on paper looks great. Joe Burrow is, of course, playing against Josh Dobbs' defense, Arizona Cardinals, just like we thought last week was a great matchup against that Tennessee Titans defense that has been woeful defending the pass. I just think that, and if you are 3-1 with Joe Burrow as your starting quarterback, and you think that there's just a little bit less risk involved with Joe Burrow than Joshua Dobbs, I get it, you're fine. Joe Burrow and the one team that I have him, I'm 1-3. And probably in large part because of the fact that I wanted the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack in my draft. I paid a bit of a premium on Burrow, and I took Chase second overall in that team, which that was not a crazy thought in the preseason, right? So yeah, I have Joe Burrow behind Josh Dobbs in my rankings this week, and it's not just that Burrow has struggled, it's that, as Mike pointed out recently, over the past 3 weeks, Joshua Dobbs is basically Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson,
QB5.
Josh Allen level good.
Yeah.
How wild is that? Justin Herbert in there as well.
Yeah, QB5.
He's actually better than one of those 5 over the past 3 weeks.
Allen, Jackson, Herbert, Hurts are the only ones.
He's
with
better
more
than Mahomes.
fantasy points. Yeah, he is better
Can
than
we
Mahomes.
clip that one off or no?
Yeah.
Dude, and
I think that's right because when did Mahomes play? Was that Monday night?
Mahomes played on Sunday night.
Sunday night. Yeah, I don't remember if I pulled that during that game or after. But anyway, he's at worst 5th or 6th. He's in that range. He's hanging in with these guys.
Over the last 3 weeks.
Over the last
and
3
in
weeks,
those 3 weeks, they played the Giants, which is fine.
Yeah.
And then the Cowboys and the 49ers.
Yeah.
It's not like they were scrub defenses.
Yeah. How about that? I mean, unbelievable that they've gotten the job done. You know, it's funny. I actually tweeted yesterday, and I got to stop. You know what? I'm biting my tongue. I was going to make a comment about something that someone responded to me on the X, and I've decided I'm not going to validate those comments. And I'm also we're moving on. Anyways, Josh Dobbs has been legit good. And what he adds that Joe Burrow does not add is the value with his legs. He's a tremendous athlete. He's a very good athlete. Let me call him that because tremendous, I think, is reserved for the Lamar Jackson types of the world. But he's been rock solid running the football. And I do think the Cincinnati defense is formidable. I also thought that the Cowboys defense was formidable.
And the
49ers defense was formidable. So I am actually in on Josh Dobbs over Joe Burrow. And I want you guys to know that I am putting my money where my mouth is. And I am playing Josh Dobbs over Joe Burrow in a league in which those are the only 2 quarterbacks on my roster.
I'm with you. Dobbs, just with his legs this season, 20.1 fantasy points.
Wow.
Joe Burrow this season total has 31 fantasy points.
That's absurd.
Right?
How many points does he have with his legs? I think 0.2 is the answer.
0.3, he's 3 rushing yards.
yards.
Yeah. So just to give you some perspective, it's a close call for me. I'm not there yet. I put Burrow, I think I have him 2 spots ahead. Yeah. Burrow's 9.
I got it flipped, obviously.
Dobbs is 11. But it was a tough call. They're certainly in the same tier. It could go either direction. I will say this. Arizona has allowed at least 14 fantasy points in every game so far to the opposing quarterback. Yeah. They allowed 21 plus to Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy so far, 2 guys that have
Jones with his legs, Purdy with. I mean, he also
Purdy with his arm.
With
he
a
doesn't really
great game script for Daniel Jones. Yeah, that was the best game that Jones has played this season by far.
It's almost like Fields last week. I'm not as optimistic because Burrow's been way worse than Fields. Yeah. But I'm going to give him this matchup this week. I feel like this team is too good to be this bad.
How do you do that?
You want to do this? You want to do this?
I'm surprised that you can do that. I think we should do it. But I
should do it.
I lost faith after.
Yeah, we should do it.
We should do it
after what was supposed to be the fix-me game for the Titans. Yeah, that's where I lost faith in Joe Burrow. I know you're staying on for one more week, but that's the point. If he couldn't do it against them, I don't think for me, as a fantasy manager, it's too emotional of a game. I'd rather have the guaranteed points that I've seen from Josh Dobbs than feel like I'm just hoping Joe Burrow finally gets it right when he didn't last week.
The Titans are weird to me. I can't get a feel for them.
Nor
They're
can
just
I.
so up and down.
They have an excellent defensive line that made life tough for that Bengals offensive line, no doubt.
And their corners are actually good. It's just they give up so much through the air because their run D is so good. Yeah. And their run D hasn't been quite as elite. It's still really good. They're not quite as dominant.
3rd in the NFL.
I know, but
defense.
Last year was just impossible. But I don't know. The Titans are a tricky one for me. I almost don't hold that completely against them because Vrabel just always has them ready to go. But I feel like this has to be the week. If it's not this week, different call. But I'm still giving them some benefit of that. Remember, it is a 4-game sample compared to a.
I don't feel like it has to be the week. Field, do you feel like it has to be the week?
I have Josh Dobbs ahead of Joe Burrow, so I'm going to go ahead and say out loud, I say Joshua Dobbs outscores Joe Burrow in fantasy points in week 5.
I say Joe Burrow outscores Joshua Dobbs in fantasy points in week 5.
Put it on the board.
I wasn't sure if he was getting it.
I agree with you. I'm with Field on this one.
Okay.
Are you part of the board bet or not? You don't have to be.
I'm absolutely part of the board bet.
So Dan gets a win.
He's got to buy a sloppy steaks is what it is.
I get my sloppy steak, actually.
What is a sloppy steak?
So you get your steak and then you dump water all over it.
Water?
Why?
See,
why?
When are we going to get him to watch? I think you should leave. Then you'll get
okay.
all of my references.
We need to just sit down and just binge 2 seasons.
We gotta watch it all.
The thing about you, Mike, is that you're not Kyle Soppe level food unique, but if you told me that you actually put steak on your water on your steak, I'd be like, that kind of passes. That kind of checks out with Mike.
Passes the sniff
you
check.
think that? What?
I don't know.
No, I'm a little I like to try all kinds of new foods. I'm a little bit of a foodie.
Okay.
Really? Yeah. I like high end food. That's one thing I'll spend the money on.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Food.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
well, I got to start making more bets
we'll
with
talk.
you that involve meals because I want to win those bets.
Oh, yeah.
and
I'll
then
take you some
profit.
places. Yeah, we'll do it.
Got a favorite spot?
Yeah, I don't dump water on my steak. That's I think you should leave, Joe.
Okay.
Just to clarify for
You got
everybody
your
listening.
phonies.
The sicko puts water on his steak.
I can't really say any more to that skit because this is a Disney company.
What
so.
kind of sicko still believes in Justin Fields here in week 5 is the question I want to ask.
Guys, I'm having a little bit of a stomach problem right now. I think I'm going to
take
need for
off.
about 3 minutes. Can you guys cover this conversation? Because I don't know who you're talking about, Justin.
We
We're
already-
going back to
we
the
already-
well here again.
Yeah, I already spiked the ball on Monday, so we're good. We're
Okay,
past that
we're
part.
done.
We're
That's
moving
it.
forward now. It's done. Look, great showing in a terrific matchup last
Great
week.
matchup. And he looked good. He did.
He did. The question now becomes, can he do it again? It's another good matchup against Washington.
Yep.
20-plus fantasy points allowed to 3 of the 4 quarterbacks they have faced so far. So this sets up well for him again. But also, it was a career day in passing yards, a career day in passing touchdowns. He actually didn't do a lot with his legs in that one, 25 rushing yards, which is kind of low for him. Also, it was his first top 15 finish of the season. So this is another one. I'm wondering where you guys fall. I see I'm a little higher. You guys moved him up a little bit from last week, but still some concerns. I
had him as quarterback 6 last week, so I've moved him down to quarterback 12.
That is nonsense.
Check the records.
You go back and change it.
I was going to say, can we do that? I think we should be able to
Probably,
do that.
right?
I had him as quarterback 16. I have moved Justin Fields this week up to quarterback 14 because I still need to see it another week before I'm trusting it because the first 3 weeks were so bad in my
Yeah, I don't
opinion.
blame you. I don't blame you.
I'm concerned that this Commanders pass rush will just totally devastate that Bears offensive line on Thursday night. So I've got him as quarterback 12. So more optimistic than last week, but still not all the way in yet on Justin Fields.
Yep. I'm going to talk about his wide receiver, DJ Moore.
Okay.
Because I feel like I need to be out on DJ Moore, guys.
You feel like you need to be out.
Yep.
How come?
I'm there. I understand we're talking about this week. I haven't projected as a starter this week because DJ Moore is the wide receiver, the pass catcher that you can start for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
I just have no interest in rostering him. DJ Moore is the kind of guy I want to go out and put on the trade market, see what kind of offers I can potentially get, and here's why. Wide receiver 17 in fantasy points per game. That is great. You love that. But he's wide receiver 41 in targets. His production is absolutely outpacing his volume. And in this low volume Chicago Bears offense, I just don't think this is going to continue for the rest of the season. So I want to go out, put DJ Moore on the trade block, see what kind of offers I'm potentially able to get for him. And then from there, based on what my roster is, I want to move on if I can. That's how I'm looking at DJ Moore.
Some shades of the conversation we had on Monday because somebody in our league that we play in the Michigan Men League made a trade offer to me for DJ Moore. Or sorry, he was trading me DJ Moore for my Garrett Wilson, which
You're
I have
right.
distinct concerns right now. But because I mentioned, this is the time to try to get out on DJ Moore. Is he, and he's not the caliber of Larry Fitzgerald. But are we and not the caliber of Andre Johnson for that matter, but are we heading towards that Andre Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald trajectory for DJ Moore, where it's like guy just continually plays with quarterbacks who underwhelm?
Maybe. Yeah, it might be that. I kind of agree with you on this one. Is this me? What's happening?
Apparently, I was touching.
Siri's
Yeah,
talking to us?
Siri was trying to talk to me.
She
Yeah.
has commentary on
about
DJ
that.
Moore.
She's like,
what
I
does she
also would
think?
sell DJ Moore. That was
Oh,
great.
she said that?
That's fantastic.
What'd
Yeah.
she say?
She would also sell DJ Moore.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
She would. Okay.
That's great.
Nice.
I sort of agree with you. Here's the tricky part with Moore is
Give me more.
he has a good resume. He's top 25 fantasy receiver each of the last 4 years, and he's doing it again. And he's coming off 3 straight good games. He has at least 100 yards or a touchdown in 3 straight games, at least 13 fantasy points in all of them. As long as he keeps getting this huge target share, I think he'll be okay. The problem is it is a low volume passing game. To your point, 41st in targets, also 49th in expected touchdowns. So he's a little over his head in that department as well.
Yep.
I'm worried that this is going to be very boom bust all season long. So coming off a little stretch here that's been good, you might be onto something. Washington's given up a lot of fantasy points to receivers, 7th most. So maybe it's after this week.
Sure.
But I'm with you. I have him in a few leagues. I'm a little nervous.
I have him ranked as a starter. You can use him this week. But for me, it's the idea. Do I think that DJ Moore in this Bears offense, who could very well be 4-13 at the end of the season, do I think that this is the kind of guy that I want to, now's the time to try and at least see what you could get out of him.
Just for the record, Bears fans would love it if they got 4 wins somehow this season.
That would be incredible.
Actually, they might hate it.
They want the 1st and 2nd overall pick with Bears in Carolina.
All right, so let's take this a step further then, because I think that both of you guys, I think all of us see this kind of similarly.
Why don't the
And-
Panthers just make this deal for DJ Moore like I'm suggesting? You know
there's
what I
an
mean?
idea
I already
right
said
there.
it.
So let's talk through this then, because if DJ Moore, one of the reasons that we are potentially out on him is the volatility. If you're trading away DJ Moore, you're probably not going to get a guy that's ranked higher in our weekly rankings than DJ Moore right now, right? You're probably going to have to be going for somebody who's ranked a little bit lower.
That's fair.
Let me throw a couple of names out there right now, just looking at the players ranked in the cluster below DJ Moore this week.
Okay. And
you guys let me know. Just I don't need an explanation per se, but just generally speaking, if I offered you this player for your DJ Moore, would you take it? You ready?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Michael Pittman.
Yes, I would take Michael Pittman over DJ Moore.
Oh man, I'm nervous about him still.
Okay.
The volume, but I'm going to lean towards Pittman just because of the scheme. They're manufacturing a lot of targets for him. I'll lean that way.
Terry McLaurin.
I would go. Man, this is
a good one. This is a good
We're
name.
just pulling from a tier here. Yeah, this is.
So that's the thing is
I'll
that
go
like
Moore.
it's saying you're going to trade DJ Moore makes sense conceptually until you actually have to go through the practice. So think what I've realized, and I'll give you a couple more names
I feel
here.
differently than you do.
Okay.
Because I feel like the idea of trying to trade a player is about, let me throw him out on the trade market and see what people are willing to offer me. I don't go in with the idea of like, I have to get this level of a player.
So, but here's the problem is that like if you're going 1 for 1 and people are trying to figure out like what is like the reasonable target for DJ Moore, what's a good example, right? Because like so I'll just keep reading off names like DeAndre Hopkins. Would you want that?
No, I'd go Moore.
No, I'd go more there.
Would you rather George Pickens or DJ Moore?
More.
Okay.
Deontay Johnson will be back in a few weeks,
I agree.
ideally.
Okay. Calvin Ridley or DJ Moore?
I would take Calvin Ridley.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, Ridley's had, 3 down games in a row now?
Yeah,
or
bad.
one
Yep.
okay game, 2 down games. I'd lean Moore, but
Jacoby Myers.
Moore.
I think I would take more there just because he's the number
Yeah,
one.
so this is what I'm saying. I think what it leads me back to is this idea. I found 1 for 1 trades in fantasy harder to execute these days, and I'm realizing that the vast majority of trades that I'm involved with or that I see in my league is 1 for multiple or multiple for multiple.
Yep.
Right? Because DJ Moore as we just looked at all those players, you're like, I don't know, like DJ Moore for George Pickens, I don't know if I would do that. But if you're trading away your DJ Moore plus your inferior running back for George Pickens plus a superior running back, make it work. So my point, my takeaway is try multiple player trades. I think that ends up finding a sweeter spot, finding that sweet spot more frequently than just that 1 for 1 trade at the same position, especially.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I think that part of it for me, the idea of offering trades is not just go out and I'm saying trade this player so you trade him.
Yep.
It's you put him out there and see based on what your roster construction is, what is it that the league is offering you, and it has to fit with your roster. So I love that conversation. I just think it's really interesting. This is a week that I would be looking at moving DJ Moore.
Yeah. Should I go to my next one?
Let's talk about Kyren Williams.
Okay, so I actually have a little bit of a rankings update because I moved him down a little bit this week.
Did you?
I'm a touch nervous about Mr. Kyren Williams this week.
Okay.
Touch nervous.
Matchup.
Matchup. Yeah. So there are actually 2 factors. So Kyren Williams draws the Eagles, who have been the 2nd best rush defense so far this season. They're allowing about 62 rushing yards per game. They're obviously awesome. They've got plenty of beef in the middle of that defensive line. Moreover, and we don't know this for a fact, if Cooper Kupp returns, does that impact the target volume for Kyren Williams at all? And I get it. They don't play the same position. It's not the same routes or concepts. But still, if Cooper Kupp plays, it's not like Cooper Kupp's going to probably have 2 targets on Sunday. He might have.
He had 3 last week.
I'm talking about Cooper Kupp.
Oh, Cup.
Right. Cooper Kupp is going to have.
Cooper Kupp is so good. He still had 3 targets last week.
If he had 3 targets
inactive.
last week, I did not start him. I'm going to feel bad about that one. Like Cooper Kupp might come back and draw 7 targets, maybe 10 targets, maybe 12 targets. It's the Rams and Cooper Kupp. He could have 20, right? So anyways, I'm just a touch. I've moved him down to RB10 this week. He's playing so many snaps. Obviously, that part is difficult to ignore.
Yeah, that's it.
And there are a lot of underwhelming running backs right now, plus the injuries like Nick Chubb, etc. But I've got him as RB10. Daniel all the way up at RB3. Mike all the way up at RB5. I have a touch of nerves surrounding Mr. Kyren Williams this week.
Just so much volume. I mean, when you talk about a guy playing 90% of the snaps some weeks, he had 28 touches last week. So only the 3 targets, but had 25 carries. He has exactly 2 touchdowns in 3 of the 4 games. And you mentioned it, the Eagles have been really good against running backs, 4th fewest fantasy points allowed, 2.9 yards per carry, terrific in that area.
Yeah.
But Williams, even out of the gate, the first couple of weeks wasn't doing much on the ground and was still making up for it in the passing game and in the touchdown department. So he's going to get the goal line work, the targets, the carries, everything out of the backfield. Also, we saw the Eagles allow 13 or more fantasy points to Brian Robinson last week, as well as Ramondre Stevenson back in week 1. So we've seen guys have decent days against them. The ceiling's lower than usual, so I don't have any issue with you knocking them down a few spots, but generally I'm chasing volume with running backs, and those guys are going to rank high. Kyren playing so many snaps. They just don't want to use Ronnie Rivers or Royce Freeman. He's their guy right now.
I know. I was looking at available running backs in the War Room League and my Veterans League right now, both 16-teamers, and it was like Ronnie Rivers is the highest projected available running back with like a robust 4.1 points projected. I was like, oh my God, what are we doing here?
That does not feel good when you look at that.
It does not feel good at all. So anyways, yeah, I just want to say, like, I have a pinge of nerves. I don't know. I used a big word yesterday on the show, so I'm trying to continue to use big words as well.
I don't know.
I have just a little bit of nerves surrounding Kyren Williams this week.
A skosh?
A skosh of nerves. Yes.
All right,
Who's next?
Let's talk about Breece Hall.
That's Michael.
Is that Mike Clay? Are you trusting?
No, it's Breece Hall. What?
Okay, well, this is amazing. Breece Hall plays the Denver Broncos this week,
That's
right?
it. That's the end of the
So
analysis.
you're ranking
That's the
very
analysis.
Yeah. Actually, you're higher. You're at 19. I'm at 22. Field 24 this week. Look, it's been a rough stretch here for Hall. Under 10 fantasy points in 3 straight. He's averaging 9.3 touches per game. Usually not guys you're going to be starting in your fantasy lineups, but he is starting to trend up in usage. If you look at snaps last week, 26 for him, 17 for Michael Carter, 14 for Dalvin Cook, who's being phased out a little bit. But again, the key is the matchup here against Denver. You would expect Hall to bring some explosive plays. We saw one last week. We saw a ton of them in week 1. The Broncos all had the most yards, 11 touchdowns.
Oh, my gosh.
And the most fantasy points to running backs this season. 11 touchdowns to running backs. I mean, granted, a lot of them were in that one game.
Yeah.
But still, it's happening every single week. They've had 22-plus fantasy points to 4 different running backs. That includes Khalil Herbert last week, who we didn't even really want to start. Last week, we thought Roshan Johnson would take on more. He was the clear guy and reached 22 fantasy points. So I just think it's a good matchup. There's 4 teams on a bye. He's a justifiable start this week.
Absolutely.
Plays the Broncos that you mentioned. How about the Broncos just moments ago releasing Randy Gregory? Apparently today is move on from your failed 2022 defensive free agent edition day as the Chargers traded away J.C. Jackson. The Broncos just released Randy Gregory, which means if my math is correct.
Careful, it might be boy math.
It's...
I got
too
you.
much there. Was Randy Gregory last year or was that 2 years ago?
I think it was last year because he was going to, remember, he was going to re-sign with Dallas and then it didn't go well. Then
Yeah,
he
but
signed
I'm
with Denver
seeing
out of nowhere.
J.C. Jackson, gone. Chandler Jones, gone. I thought Randy Gregory was last year as well. But anyways, Randy Gregory cut. Maybe he was 2 seasons ago. Anyways,
Yeah,
the
snaps were going down. I noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, this new regime, if you haven't noticed, they've changed a lot of things since Sean Payton arrived in Denver. So, yeah, I agree with Mike's Breece Hall. Mike Hall, didn't he win the ESPN broadcaster show way back in the day?
I got it. We got a yes from our director.
Confirmed. Yes,
there you
he
go.
won that, which was a great show.
How do you know that? How do you know these?
You didn't watch
random
that show
things?
back in the day?
What? When was
Do you remember
back
the show?
in the day?
Like, I don't know, probably like, what do you think, Brian? 15 years ago? 20 years ago, maybe?
You were like 15
what?
years ago. What? Is that what you were
Well,
watching
like,
for Saturday
Instead of
parents-
cartoons, you
yeah,
watch that.
screen time. There was a show on ESPN where it was an audition. I think it was Tony Kornheiser and 2 others who were the judges. And the person who won this competition, like American Idol style, got a contract with ESPN.
No way.
And so Mike Hall, who is now with the Big Ten Network, won the competition, and he has had a very successful career since then.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I learned something new today.
How about that?
People know how people on the Focus get recruited and auditioned, right?
Well,
That's it.
Remember how Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, asked a guy in the day of the 16 NFL draft about taking Johnny Manziel? We did the exact same thing here. Like we just go to we just go to the, find someone who just has and we just say, hey, what do you think about this Mike Clay guy?
They're like, don't do it.
Numbers. I like him.
I like numbers.
Yeah.
We should bring that show back. I think Field could wear a suit and host it.
Yeah.
Think so?
I think
fun.
Little microphone.
Oh yeah.
Tiny Mike.
The tiny mic. Even better.
Tiny
Even
mic.
better.
I like the tiny mics. All right, let's talk about one more guy here.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, this was your call.
This was my call.
Okay, all
There's
right.
another trade conversation, I think, guys.
All right.
The Seattle Seahawks do not play this week. They're on a bye.
Yep.
But I want to ask you a couple of things. Mike, last week you had talked about Zach Charbonnet starting to get more run within this Seahawks offense. And then last week we saw even more Ken Walker III. Okay, so I want to ask you this. Heading into the bye week, I want to look at these numbers. Ken Walker, 142 snaps, Zach Charbonnet has half as many, 72.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, 72 snaps for Charbonnet. Ken Walker has 72 touches on the season. They are just far and away utilizing him more. Yeah. Not only that, he has 13 goal-to-go carries. Charbonnet only has 2. And you look at the way that there's like this passing game is working. We thought that Zach Charbonnet was hopefully going to be involved there as well. Instead, nope, Ken Walker, more receptions and targets on the season than Zach Charbonnet. Right now, RB5 on the season is Ken Walker. And Zach Charbonnet feels like he is a distant number 2 in this backfield, just from a numbers perspective. I'm not talking about looking at the game.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is an opportunity where people should be going out during a bye week when this guy's not going to play and potentially try to either buy low on Zach Charbonnet, or is this a spot where you think that Ken Walker is not going to be RB5 through the rest of the season? This is the highest that he will be by the end of the season. So now might be a chance for you to go out and say, hey, you know what? I get he's on a bye, but check out this game log. Look at how much usage he's getting. And now might be the time to try and move on from Ken Walker before you start to see a split here.
You know what this feels like? It's like year 3 or 4 Derrick Henry usage, right? Because he had 0 targets in this game.
Yeah,
he did.
0 targets. He played a season high 71% of the snaps. He has 5 touchdowns. He leads in expected touchdowns this season. Big time rushing production, super
Huge
efficiency.
rushing production.
He's been terrific, but again, very low usage in the passing game, 0 targets. And Zach Charbonnet, look, I think to answer your question, I think he is probably at his ceiling for the season because of the low usage in the passing game. But I think it's kind of one of those things where you just ride it out because he's a really good runner, good offense. He's going to keep getting most of the carries in the goal line work. And I do think Charbonnet, I think it's going to be a game script thing. So there's games where they're competitive, where they're trailing. You're going to see more Charbonnet mixed in passing situations. We are starting to see that gap close up a little bit. So that's what I think I would keep an eye on. But to answer your question, I don't think I would be aggressive trying to acquire him, but I also would not be selling right now either.
Not selling Ken Walker because you're going to keep riding that because running back is so bad. It's like I'm just going to take a guy that is out there producing because we don't have a lot of guys that are delivering on a week in and week out value.
That's a great point.
Either of you guys have a situation on Monday night where you needed like 10 points from Ken Walker to win a matchup? Or conversely, we're up by 10 and your opponent had Ken Walker?
I did not.
Okay. Nope. I was just wondering what was going through your head when Ken Walker had that early play in the game where he thought he was not brought down to the ground.
That touchdown.
And ran for 73 yards in a touchdown.
Yeah.
I had a situation.
Like the first play, right? Wasn't
it was
snap?
very early on in the game. So I had a matchup where I was up by I want to say 8 in non-PPR. And my opponent had just Ken Walker and Darren Waller left, which is a lot, but in non-PPR, crazy things happen. And Waller's had a slow start, which continued on Monday night. I was apoplectic about that play. I was like, if you cannot tell that Ken Walker's elbow clearly touched the ground, then you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. You don't know ball, and you should probably resign.
We would almost got one of the videos of people where their team loses and they smash their TV. We almost got one
feel
of
like pulls
do
the
like
TV off.
like a nanny cam in your family room?
Yes. I would have just smashed that. I would have smashed the TV. It would have been caught in the nanny cam. That would have been bad, huh?
The reason why I say this, Mike, and I'm totally with you on not moving on, I do think it's interesting because I think Ken Walker III, I don't think he's going to get higher than RB5 at the end of the season. I think this is his peak, right?
This
but because running back is so bad, with what you're talking about, Field, when you're talking about trading, is Zach Charbonnet the kind of guy that I want to throw into the back end of a trade where it's like, hey, this guy's got upside. If Ken Walker ever is not here, look at what this role can potentially be for Charbonnet.
Yeah,
low value right now. Someone that I think that you could just put in as a part of a low-end trade from that perspective.
I like Charbonnet as a bench stash for sure. I mean, if we're talking insurance running backs, there's no doubt about it. He's in the top 5.
Right now on a bye week, players can't use him. Might be not a bad time to be able to grab him. All right, we're going to talk about our first round redraft coming up next.
I can't wait for this. But first, Geico asked, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance?
I would love that.
Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help, like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more. And Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.
Hey, college football fans, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that will help you win game days this season. Eckrich Smoked Sausage. You're probably asking yourself, whatever your name is, self, can it really be that easy? Absolutely, it is. Eckrich smoked sausage is crafted with a perfect medley of spices for a truly rich, savory taste. They're delicious all by themselves or in any recipe you can dream up. If the word recipe sounds like a lot of work, don't worry. Visit Eckrich.com for dozens of simple, mouth-watering recipes, making your tailgate a prep. You're making your tailgating prep a stress-free event.
There it is.
So there you go. Eckrich smoked sausage is the secret to winning game days. You can thank me later. Visit Eckrich.com for more. All right, let's dive in. Field, this was your idea, doing a first-round redraft. I am really excited just to be able to see how the landscape has changed.
Yeah, do you like this idea?
I do like
Okay,
this
do you
idea.
like this idea?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you guys like this idea that I proposed.
I hate it. Don't tell me it's a terrible
I can hear you,
I
Mike.
believe that we are doing this.
No, I thought it was a useful exercise right now because I do think people are wondering how things have changed a quarter of the way into the season. I know that with 17 games, it's a lot less clean to say that we've been a quarter of the way through the season, but I look at it like this. This is halfway through week 5, which means we're 4.5 weeks into the season. 4.5 times 4 is 18, whatever. Clean enough. Let's do it. Let's call it the quarter mark of the year. So I thought what we would do is redo the top round, the first round of a draft, and see how we would size it up if the draft began right now.
We each
going
set our
forward.
own top 10.
Yep.
And this is weird. Your guys are different from the preseason. Mine's the same because I had it perfect. So I haven't changed that at all.
Yeah,
Like,
that is weird. You did
it's the
Puka
same
Nakua
thing.
third overall.
That's
in
why
your
I thought it was a weird
pre-draft.
exercise because I was like, it's the same.
So we're doing a 10-team
No, it's not.
league.
It is
Yes.
not the same.
Normal PPR, as
Yep.
ESPN standard,
Yep.
10-team league. So Field, you are
Yeah.
number 1.01 pick right now.
Yeah, and we'll each reveal our selections at each slot and then talk
about it.
Christian McCaffrey from me, 49ers running back, who has been absolutely exceptional, Mike.
Christian McCaffrey, 49ers running back. He's been exceptional.
Running back is so bad, and Christian McCaffrey has been exceptional, so I'm going
So
with
good.
CMC.
Yeah, okay, so
End of
no
analysis.
surprise there.
This is
Right?
an
I mean,
easy one,
there
right?
really isn't that much more you have to say. I'm sure at some points he will not score a touchdown in a game. That might come in, like, I don't know, maybe next offseason.
Somewhere.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's
Preseason in
been so
2026.
money. I will say this. One of the things that we talked about with the 49ers offense coming into the year was just like the unpredictable nature to it in some ways. They have like double, tripled down on Christian McCaffrey. It's just remarkable how much they are using him, even more so, I feel like, than at times last year after that trade. It's just a joy to watch Christian McCaffrey in this offense every single week.
Yeah, and it seems like they're just playing it smart, where some weeks they're in position to use him a lot. And then, for example, they'll play like on Thursday and they'll use a little more of the backup running back.
Yep.
Or if it's a game where they run 75 snaps instead of 60, they'll
Purdy
use more
throw
the
it.
other way. But when they have opportunities, he's on the field and handling most of the snaps. 31 more fantasy points than any other running back. I will say this, if you want to nitpick, they have a very hard rest of season schedule for running backs based on the first month of the season. That could change. I just scanned over that as we were going to talk through these guys. Sometimes it helps break ties a little bit.
Yeah.
It is a harder slate, but not worried about McCaffrey's involvement in the passing game, the running game. It's
been
been
awesome.
offense. Kyle
Yeah.
Shanahan, so much in his benefit.
So great. Yep.
CMC is tied for first in rushing touchdowns with Raheem Mostert. Do you think CMC or Raheem Mostert is going to lead that at the end of the season?
I will go with CMC on a limb.
I will take that one as well. Do you want to board bet it?
Nope.
Okay.
Let's move on and talk about our number 2 pick. Guys, if I'm picking second overall, 1.02, I'm still going with Justin Jefferson. Jay Jetta for me. Field, where you going?
I am taking Justin Jefferson as well. He
I am
moves down
taking-
one spot from our pre-draft rankings, and this has actually nothing to do with Jefferson. It has much more to do with McCaffrey's brilliance.
100%.
Jefferson has 103.3 PPR points. That's the second most in the NFL so far this season. He has just been unbelievable. He's the only player with at least 24 PPR points in every game this year. The consistency is off the charts.
If you took him first overall over McCaffrey, you might be a little upset. You don't need to be. He's
You-
been
no, you-
outstanding.
yeah.
He's paid it off for sure. Top 8 scoring receiver in all 4 weeks. He looks the part. He's still playing for that new contract. And by the way, we still have a long way to go. One of the reasons we didn't take McCaffrey first is, running back durability issues, right?
totally.
That's still a prominent deal, something we still have to concern ourselves with going forward. So no regrets taking Jefferson first overall, but if I'm with you, I put him second.
Yeah, we are lockstep through the first 2 picks with CMC and JJ. For the third pick overall,
Let's mess it up. Let's
Field,
slop
which
up
direction
these
are you gonna
stakes.
go? I feel like this is obvious here still.
I'm taking Tyreek Hill third overall. Tyreek Hill has been awesome so far this season for the Dolphins. It's weird. He has had 2 absolute boom games and then 2 games where he was quote unquote held in check. One against the Patriots where he had 5 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown. So held in check is 15 fantasy points for Tyreek Hill. I've got him third overall. How about you, Mike?
Mine is, if you see the graphic, it's T Hill. Mine's Taysom
Hill. Congratulations.
Yes.
There we go.
Now, also Tyreek Hill. So last year, Tyreek Hill. Darn it.
You did that to
He
yourself.
had 100. I did. He had 170 targets in 17 games. That's 10.0 per game.
That's really
through
good.
4 games this year. He has 40 targets.
That's so
10.0 per game. Also has 4 touchdowns. Again, if you want to get nitpicky here, the Miami passing game schedule the rest of the season is hard across the board for the tight ends. Don't matter really for them, but the receivers, the quarterbacks, this includes Tua. The schedule is much tougher going forward, but I'm not sure it matters. This team is so good. When the matchup's right, they're going to be a team that could score 40 points. And then in a tougher matchup, probably 20. They're just a really good offense. So no issues here. Tyreek is legit going for 2,000. He's highly motivated.
He very well
and that
might.
matters.
Yeah, he
he's
totally
going
might.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I
trying
like
to
it.
at least. I love that right now. All right, so through the first 3 picks, again, we are the same field. I think this is where we're going to start seeing some differences. Fourth overall
so
pick,
with
which
pick
direction?
4, I took Stephon Diggs for the Buffalo Bills, who's been awesome. He's had 2 massive games already this season.
Diggs. Mike, who you taking at 5?
I am
This
taking
is 4.
Austin Eckler.
Sorry, at 4.
I expect him back after
You're
the
taking
bye.
Austin Eckler, and I'm
who are you
also
taking?
taking Austin Eckler as
Okay,
well because
all right.
running back has been so bad. So, Field, why are you going with Stephon Diggs here?
Yeah, I can't imagine Diggs is too far down your guys' board. However, the only way that I was able to break this tie is because I do think Austin Eckler is back after the bye. He was a very strong consideration at pick 4. But even if the chances of him not being back are 5%, that's how you break a tie of 2 players that are this good. And Diggs has been sensational, and this Bills offense looks once again like the very best in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm a little lower on Diggs. We'll get into that a little bit. I just think it's kind of the same as what we've gotten from him. I think he's going to be a mid-range wide receiver 1. Yeah, they've had some huge games as of late too. Tons of points. I think they're going to be fine all season long, but I think you'll see that I think level off a little bit because again, I don't see much difference from the Bills offense from last year and necessarily the years prior to that. I think they're going to be one of the highest scoring offenses. Diggs is going to have his big games and he's going to finish as wide receiver 5 or something like that.
Do you even watch ball?
Wow.
No, we've been over this.
Okay.
Box scores.
Yeah, box scores.
Analytics.
Yeah.
Right? PFF grades.
Yeah.
Pass block win rate. That's
Yes.
what it's about.
That's what it's about. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what this game is.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit more optimistic on Stephon Diggs. What do you have him as, like, player 7 on your board?
8th, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
That's
it's
fine.
all the way down.
That's where he was drafted. I mean, if we were redrafted right now, or you're whoa,
Sorry.
all right, relax. I know you don't like my take,
No, I'm with you on your take. I also have Austin
but
Eckler.
as we'll get to. I mean, there's just a couple guys in a 1-for-1 deal I would prefer, including a running back who you hate. So we'll get to that.
I think when Eckler comes back, he is just, that same guy that we think we have seen, and given the way that the running back position has been this year, that's a part of why I love him.
He's awesome. Yeah, I hope that there are people that are not mad about the pre-draft discourse involving Austin Eckler and Christian McCaffrey. And people saying, like, you missed the boat on Eckler versus McCaffrey if you had Eckler ahead of McCaffrey. In the only game that Eckler has played, he scored more fantasy points than Christian McCaffrey. Yep. And the whole thing in the preseason was like, we are looking for like a razor thin difference maker. The 49ers depth chart was a lot more imposing than the Chargers depth chart was, which, by the way, has been fortified. Josh Kelly stinks, as we have seen in his opportunity to fill in for Austin Eckler. So Eckler should be incredible the rest of the season. Really hoping he is back in week 6.
And substantially easier schedule. He's one of the easiest running back schedules going forward. Again, this is all based on the first month of the season. Very easy for Eckler, very much on the hard side for McCaffrey. So something to think about. I'm with you. 164 yards in week 1.
Yeah.
Eckler, when
Tremendous.
he's healthy, should be all systems go.
All right, Fields, you're on the clock with the 5th pick of the first round
All right,
redraft.
I took Austin Eckler here. So, yeah, there we go.
Wow, way down. Hates him.
Seriously. All right, Mike, what about you?
All right,
Which
my
direction?
pick is a guy who I don't believe is in, spoiler alert, Fields' top 10. So this is an interesting topic. We kind of broke Fields' brain yesterday for a while when I mentioned this guy because I named him Antonio Pollard of the Texas Cowboys.
I thought there was some sort of inside joke. We were on our group thread yesterday, and I thought that like Antonio
Pollard.
Yeah, so Tony Pollard is your pick 5. And Daniel, who do you have?
I took Stephon Diggs because I think he's a pretty good value at 5. If he gets past you at 4, I'll probably draft him at 5.
There you go. Okay, so Mike, make your case here for Antonio Pollard, which isn't like that controversial of a pick at all.
Yeah, so check this out. In
I will.
3 games, the Cowboys, they're 3 wins.
Yep.
You know what the combined scores of those 3 games? It's almost unbelievable.
Wait, in 3? No, I know
they're
this.
3 wins.
They're 3 wins. I know that they've allowed a total of 13 points.
That's
in those
correct.
3
They've
wins.
scored 108.
They're
so
absurd.
these games have been blowouts. In those games, Tony Pollard has played 60% of the snaps.
Yeah.
In their loss to Arizona, he played 87%. So he has not had to play late in games. They're blowing teams out. We're seeing Rico Dowdle. You were just seeing backup running backs worked in. It's just they haven't had to utilize him completely.
Defense
And
is
still
scoring points for Dallas.
Yeah, but nonetheless, he's able to rest in these games, and still he's second at running back in touches and expected touchdowns. He's 7th in fantasy points. He's top 5 at running back in carries and receptions, and he has not had a full workload through a month of the season. They're not going to keep blowing teams out by quite these margins. I don't believe that.
Maybe you convinced a believer. Maybe you have. Maybe you have convinced me.
The volume for Pollard is real, and it's still a little bit unheralded, understated. I think he's going to just tear it up going forward. So he's actually he's RB3 for me moving forward this season. Yeah.
RB3, wow.
It's a crazy thought because there's somebody that's better than him that you have not mentioned yet by a lot.
Interesting.
Right. At the 6th overall pick, where are you going, Field?
Bijan Robinson, who I don't even again.
He's so good.
It's so tough to watch this Falcons offense. It is not tough to watch Bijan Robinson.
Exactly.
I love watching him. He is absolutely unbelievable. At least 10 fantasy points in every game. He's just been remarkable as a pass catcher, remarkable as a runner as well. I wish he got the football even more, but even with his relatively limited workload compared to what I would like, he's still absolutely dominating so far this season.
Yeah, how's 6.0 yards per carry for you?
Seems pretty good.
Pretty darn good. Yeah, he's
amazing.
He's 6th on my board as well. Leads all running backs in catches. That's something we hoped for coming into the season. We're getting that. He's 3rd. He's actually exactly 3rd at running back in both rushing yards and receiving yards. So this is about what you expected. If you took him in the first round, he's paying it off.
Yeah, he absolutely has. I actually went with Keenan Allen here. I do have Bijan. But Keenan Allen, you got no Mike Williams in this offense. I'm not believing that Quentin Johnston or Joshua Palmer is going to come in and all of a sudden take over and become a world beater in this situation. So for me,
1 catch last week. Yeah,
Keenan Allen, 35 receptions, 44 targets. How many games have we played? 4?
4 by my math.
So is 11 targets per game a
Seems
good
good.
number?
That's very good.
Yeah.
My only concern there, and he just missed my top 10. Can he keep up the touchdown pace? He has 3 touchdowns, 2.0 expected. He had
never
6.
had 10 in the season before.
Right. And he usually has 6 or fewer. And he had 6 2 years ago. He had 4 last year.
Yep.
I'm just not sure that's his department. And I think he's going to come back to earth a little bit.
He's
and
also
again,
the oldest person ever, according to your metrics.
He's in his 30s. I mean,
that is true.
I can't believe he's even.
What do you see when you look in the mirror in the morning, Mike?
What?
What do you see when you look in the mirror?
I see a perfectly decent-looking middle-aged man.
Middle-aged man.
Because I'm not an NFL player.
Oh, remember that app like 3
Not
years
quite
ago that
middle-aged,
aged you?
Oh, yeah.
First of all, does that thing still exist?
I'm sure
You
it's
can find
somewhere.
it.
Maybe it was a
filters are out there.
filter. Okay, yeah.
The kids like to play with that. You'll get there someday.
Okay,
We're doing it with the girls.
I can only imagine what that age app must have meant to you. You're like, Aaron Jones doesn't need that age app. The dude's already
he's
borderline
senior citizen
collecting
player.
Social Security. Yeah,
That's right.
Wow.
I'm with you. 28-year-old
crazy.
running backs.
Number
Once you hit
7.
30 at receiver, I mean, just hang it up, man.
All right. We got the 7th pick. Field, give me who you're going to pick, and then I'm going to go to Mike because we have a discrepancy here with the 7th overall pick.
I have Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
Correct.
At 1.07.
Yeah.
Mike,
I have
who do you
Devontae Adams.
You have Devontae Adams, and I also have Devontae Adams at 7. So Field,
Interesting.
still going with Travis Kelce. Talk to me about this decision.
So I know it's been compared to prior years, like a touch of a slow start here for Travis Kelce, but I think part of that is just like the measuring stick he has set for himself, right? Where it's like, what was it? The first game, 9 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown.
Wow,
People are like,
that's
yeah, it's
garbage for
okay, right? You know, 6 catches for 60 yards last week. People are like, ho hum. But what has like maybe 32% of the content been on our show this week? Hey, this tight end still stinks.
Yeah.
Where do you find another one that actually is good? And while Mark Andrews has been really, really good in 2 out of 3 games this year, like 5 catches on 5 targets for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns is a less sustainable formula for a player than Travis Kelce consistently seeing probably close to 7 to 10
He has
targets
8 or 9
per
in
game.
every game, yeah.
So close to 10 targets a game for Travis Kelce, such a difference maker there. And the Chiefs' offense has sputtered a tiny bit relative to its own pace through the first 4 games of the season. I would not be surprised that the schedule starts to include more games against their own division. The Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders.
That's what I was just thinking
they play
about.
the Vikings this week. Like, the Chiefs' schedule is so gratuitous going forward. I love the opportunity for Mahomes and Travis Kelce to just totally smash.
Yep, that's my note here. The Chiefs' offense has a very, very
good
nice schedule going forward. One of the easiest in the league.
Honestly, it's. I mean, just
Two
look at who they
Broncos
played so far.
matchups in the next 4 weeks, right? I think you talked
And
about
to your
it.
point, the Raiders twice as well.
And again, in the
you
one matchup
Chargers.
that was like on paper completely chalky for the Chiefs, and I get it, like for the Chiefs, almost every matchup feels a bit chalky. But in the one game where you're like, they should totally dominate against the Bears, Mahomes in like 2.5 quarters throws for 272 yards and 3 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Kelsey goes for 7 for 69 and a touchdown. Right. So
not worried about them at all. The key there is, and this is a topic for tomorrow or Friday, but figuring out if there's a receiver that could benefit from this going forward.
I'll tell you what.
guys, I'm just looking at the schedule. This is the spiciest meatball of all time coming up for the Chiefs. Vikings, Broncos, Chargers, Broncos again. Amazing.
Now's the time to buy into this offense. if you can.
Dolphins. Dolphins are defense. They have capable
might be
players, right? But I was going to
41-38,
say it might be a shootout. Eagles, which we'll see. Still not exactly sure how much of a deterrent they are defensively right now. Raiders, Packers, Bills. That's all the way in December. We'll worry about the Bills later on. This is just a fantastic schedule for the Chiefs
It
coming
really
up.
is. I'm with you.
I'm really worried, though, about this, about Patrick Mahomes in a I had this conversation with Pierre Biquet. I'm worried about Patrick Mahomes in a non-Travis Kelce world because we watched something similar. He started making me think about this. Aaron Rodgers had this thing where like he had one guy, and it was Devontae Adams for a real long time. And without Devontae Adams, he didn't look the same last year. I want one of these wide receivers to do something for me this year. It's
Fair
been
enough.
We've had last year where they did nothing. There was no wide receiver that stepped up. This year, through 4 games, we have not seen anybody step up. They thought it was going to be Kadarius Toney. I don't know why they thought that, but that was a problem. Sky Moore has not stepped up.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's a few years away, though. Kelsey seems, I can't quite put my finger on why, but Travis Kelce seems reinvigorated right now.
Yeah, no way to know. There's no way to know why. Nothing's going on, right?
No.
Anyway.
Weather? Might be better weather these days.
Yeah, maybe. I'm also not really as concerned as you are because we've seen this before with the best. We've seen it with Tom Brady. We've seen it with Peyton Manning. We saw it with Donovan McNabb. Remember the Eagles famously never went after pass catchers until T.O., and they were always, 13-3, just crushing it.
Totally.
So I'm not worried about it, I think. And by then, they'll hope ideally find another alpha receiver.
Somebody else.
For the record, by the way, who would you want on your at least on your bench now? Who's the Chiefs receiver you want? I have an answer. I have an answer.
The Chiefs
I'm
wide
confident
receiver
in.
that I want, I guess it would still either be Sky Moore or Rasheed Rice.
It's
for
Rasheed
me.
Rice for me, for
Yeah,
sure.
Rasheed Rice,
He's
yeah.
trending up. Snaps are going up. I think
Yeah.
he's the guy.
One of those
Rasheed
two
Rice.
guys.
All right, let's do it. Let's rip through these last few
let's
picks
talk
here.
about 8. Fields, what do you have at 8?
Devontae Adams. So we just saw him at pick 7
Stephon
for
Diggs
you
for me.
guys.
We talked through him already. Yeah.
And I've got Bijan Robinson at 8 again because running back is so thin. I just like the idea of being able to grab a young running back that has been an absolute stud here.
I do want to appreciate Devontae Adams for what he did this past week. I thought he was done with that shoulder injury. Took a massive hit, gutted it out. He used a different term to describe it. He's awesome. Just really enjoy. Like, what an honor it is to watch. Like, I know that we are in maybe this ridiculous era of wide receivers, but for a guy that's pushing 30, what an honor it is to watch him play football. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is awesome. And this is hard to believe because every year we talk about how he is just number 1 or top 3 in target share and targets per game. Career highs in both categories.
39% target share
39%,
right now.
12.8 targets per game. Those are career highs. He's had a ton the last 2 weeks. So
Massive. He's so great.
He's still got it.
The idea that Devontae Adams is setting career high in targets and he's still not the number 1 wide receiver in targets is unreal. Who is Field Yates?
Number 1 receiver in targets right now?
Is that Puka Nacua?
Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
By the way, official. Rams have designated Cooper Kupp to return to practice today. So
that.
we'll see
All right.
whether he
Could be back
plays,
this
but
week.
that's a great. Him and Jonathan Taylor have both been designated to return.
Bigger fantasy impact of players designated to return. Is it Cooper Kupp or Kyle Phillips for Tennessee this week? It's hard to say. 2 slot receivers.
It's a good call.
You guys, yeah,
good call.
honestly.
Pick number 9
Yeah.
for us. I got Keenan
let's do
Allen.
Keenan Allen.
All right, mine might be a little controversial.
It
This
is.
might be
This
the
is
most
interesting.
controversial
It
of
is.
the draft.
Chase Brown?
Darn it, I was going to say a kicker.
Chase McLaughlin.
Jamar Chase.
Wow.
Jamar Chase.
Daniel and
second in
Tony Pollard.
ADP.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you have Tony Pollard. Yeah. Chase is interesting. Fairly easy schedule going forward. I think the volume's been terrific.
has
So
been
again,
good,
peppered
yeah.
with targets. So we're going to talk more about Chase, I think, in this show. So I won't get too into it. But I'm going to hold on some more hope that this guy could still pay off. He's just so talented and the volume's there.
Yep.
It can't be any worse than this. And he's still up there in yardage and targets.
I'm sorry. Did you just say it can't be any worse than this?
I don't
I mean,
think
it
it
would
could
be
be
tough
worse.
to get worse. Yeah. Can it get worse?
He
tell me.
literally is last among all. Joe Burrow is literally last in fantasy points among quarterbacks that have started every game so far. So
That seems
it
bad,
cannot
Mike.
get worse.
I don't know much, but that seems bad.
Yeah.
It can't get worse. Can it, Daniel?
The
Don't tell
biggest
me
head
it can
scratch.
get
This is-
worse.
by the
He's
way-
still getting targets at least. Like he could.
Yeah, he's 6
That's right. Him and T. Higgins too. And also, T. Higgins
yes, it could get
could
worse.
miss the game. He could miss the game.
That would help. Hopefully, you would
Maybe.
think.
I don't know. I mean, I am done predicting what the heck is going on with this Bengals offense.
Every year we're like, this guy feels safe at least.
Yeah,
and every year we get proof that that's not the case. Burrow, Chase seemed like two of the safest picks in fantasy drafts
They
this
did.
year.
Totally. Yep.
I mean,
we are.
they should have been. And this is not a Chase thing, and we know
But
that.
I don't
right?
have a great explanation for it. Usually you could figure something out, and maybe it just is the injury. But he's not on the injury report. But really him not maneuvering in the pocket makes them go from the best offense in the league to the worst offense in the league, arguably.
Oh,
like,
man.
I that's hard for me to
I think the
understand
injury
that.
is definitely a significant part of it, but I think they're, like, as I said, I said this a couple days ago on the show, so sorry to reiterate, but he's not nearly as mobile. Those second reaction plays are not there. The offensive line is struggling once again. It's hard to get shots down the field right now. Defenses are treating them differently. They haven't gotten a whole lot from the running game so far this season, which not that they did last year or the year prior, but just feels like a very different level of scare, of fear that they are injecting into opponents compared to the past couple of seasons. Yeah.
This is a part of field why we talked about coming into this season. Quarterbacks, one of the things that we want is just quarterbacks that have mobility. And mobility does not have to mean that you're a running quarterback, but you have the ability to extend plays, roll out of the pocket, break containment, keep drives alive.
Totally.
We're not seeing that with Joe Burrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely what is impacting this Bengals offense, which is tough. All right. 10th overall pick, last pick of the first round. And then I want to ask you guys some guys that almost made it
Just
but
missed the
didn't
cut.
make it. Where are you
A.J.
at?
Brown for me. A.J. Brown,
He's been
who
great.
I
Hold on.
absolutely... Okay, sorry.
A.J. Brown for you?
Yes.
Where are you going at 10?
Here's where I have Travis Kelce.
You have Travis Kelce at 10? Okay, and I've got A.J. Brown at 10 field, so I'm with you here.
The volume's been awesome for A.J. Brown. There was that one dip, and then the squeaky wheel gets the grease. As Daniel very wisely predicted over the past couple weeks, he has been an absolute mash unit. So he's been amazing.
Yeah, I'm just an Eagles hater, so
You're out
that's why
on
he's
A.J.
just
Brown.
out.
Predictable.
Yeah, he would have been 11 for me, I believe. His target share is up a lot from where he's been the last 3 years.
it's been great to see.
I think we got a little spike here, and then I think it'll come back to earth a little bit. I think more Dallas Goedert, more Devontae Smith in this offense. Weirdly,
You see what he's doing here?
Yeah, I do.
You know what he's doing, right?
I know what he's doing.
Eagles fan. So he's like, well, he's going to dip. The Eagles probably,
I mean, it's fine.
So then if,
win games.
if he's right, he can have the fantasy part covered.
And
When he's wrong, though, and the Eagles, have 47 points on Sunday against the Rams, and AJ has 22 catches, ties the single game record, he'll be like, well, my Eagles are just so good. Who cares?
what are you going to do?
When you have Howie, you just have a whole bunch of good targets. Wow. It's all right. I mean, look, if Quez Watkins was on Detroit, he'd be their best receiver. I mean, that's how stacked they are. They're just so loaded. They don't even need him.
Dude, did you just hate on the sun god like that?
I think unintentionally. I'm going to let that one slide. But
I don't see Amon-Ra in your top 10.
I thought
see
about
AJ
it.
Brown,
Thought
I
about
see
it,
him.
yeah.
Thought about it, but he did not make the cut.
Just different level of upside with the
Yeah,
receivers. that
early
we have
second
mentioned.
rounder. I'm with you.
Toughest omission for you, Daniel.
Travis Kelce.
Okay. And what was the reason against?
I don't see tight
You
end in the
hate
same
Taylor Swift.
position as you guys. No, I love Taylor Swift. I don't see tight end the same way that you guys do. I think that the reason why we were drafting Travis Kelce 5th overall was because he was so much better than everyone else, but you were basically drafting him at cost.
Yeah.
There was no room for value there because you were going to have to get the top 5 season out of him. And at this point, I'm not seeing that out of Travis Kelce in the way that the rest of the tight ends have factored in. I think that I could draft him probably at the top end of the second round rather
Interesting.
than have to use a first round pick with the way he started.
I actually feel like the gap between Kelce and everybody else is going to continue to be fortified at tight end. I really do.
Yeah.
I know that the next men up would be Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson.
Yep.
Beyond that, is there anybody else that you think belongs in that conversation?
Not right now.
And Andrews has been really, really efficient. And then Hawkinson had one dud game so far, which you just don't routinely get from Travis Kelce. His dud is 12 points.
I don't think that he is in this. I think in the next tier is Sam Laporta because I think he's going to keep getting volume, but I don't
agree.
think
Yep.
he's anywhere near the TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews level yet.
Yeah, I'm curious with Laporta, too. I think I agree he's a tight end one. I'm curious just how involved Jameson Williams is going to be in the next few weeks. Is he going to be a 20% target share guy?
Yep.
And if that's the case, that's going to
I
take
doubt
away.
it.
I doubt that. Yeah,
I doubt
based
that.
on
We talked
listening
about
to-
it.
You don't think
yeah,
he'll
we-
get there at some point in the next few weeks?
Not in the next 2 weeks.
I've
Then
decided
he
what
shouldn't
I'm
be on fantasy rosters then.
I
Yeah.
disagree. No, he should be on rosters. Just
If he's not going to get to a
20%.
20% target share, he's going to be a flex at best.
Right, but don't you want him on your bench?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. You can put him on your bench, but it's going to be hard to start him if he's not going to get there. That's the. I mean, if you have him on your bench right now, if you have Jameson Williams on your bench, your hope is that he gets to that area.
I would
like 18 to 22% target share. That's going to be 5, 6, 7 targets, 8 targets.
And in 5 or 6 weeks from now, that's where I think where I'm getting towards the fantasy
at some point this season.
At some point this season, he will get there. Yes, not in the next 2 weeks. I don't think he will.
Can you guys like duke it out on this one? Like get like more acrimonious right now. Can you do that?
I thought that we were.
I thought it was pretty close.
Like hostile.
I thought I was pretty hostile.
I want to have to get up from out of my seat.
Do you have a good hostile voice?
And separate the two of you.
Try this for me. Mom, meatloaf!
Oh, no. I watched this.
You want to try that? Can you do it?
Wait, what was the advice he
gave? I don't even remember. Just do
Mom, the meatloaf! I'm sick. I don't have my voice.
Let's try it. Powering through it.
You want to do it?
Wow.
You want to do a feel?
Mom.
You want any grit in your voice?
They did that on
the Manning cast.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about that, do we have like 2 seconds here? My favorite thing on that broadcast was when they had Will Ferrell. Like he went to a school for broadcasting.
Yeah.
And they said do one play.
Yeah.
And it happened to be the play where it was as Gino caught his own pass. I was like, that is so perfect. Like
so
the comedic
great.
timing that was.
And his play call a couple minutes later was so good.
Yeah. He's the best.
He was fantastic. All right. So I gave the reason for my reason. Travis Kelce, the guy that I wanted to find a way to fit in the top 10, but I didn't field. Who did you have that was tough for you to omit?
Probably Antonio Pollard.
Antonio Pollard.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry. Okay. I don't have a good. Mike has actually has convinced me. Yeah, that was the player that was my toughest omission.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, more important than the fact that I omitted him from my top 10 was that yesterday, so we're all sending on our top 10 to our group thread for the show, and Mike made a joke about Antonio Pollard, and then Daniel like doubled down on the joke.
I did.
I was like, who the hell is Antonio Pollard? It's like, what are you guys talking about?
I had no idea.
I was like, wait, I was like, did I accidentally say like Antonio Pollard recently?
Nope.
And I had absolutely no idea. Meanwhile, I go off the group thread and I text Mike and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on with this Antonio Pollard?"
He was very worried. I ruined Fields afternoon.
Mike is like,
he's like Googling Antonio Pollard. Nothing. No results.
No idea. By the way, I went to Google. His name actually is Antonio Pollard. His full name is Antonio.
I was just being I don't know. I was just being weird. I just called him his full name.
What you were being.
Tough omission for me.
Like Rain Dakota Prescott. I've done that. Rain Prescott.
Rain
Prescott. It's fun to just be weird sometimes.
Tony Pollard was your omission. Mike, did you give us your omission?
Yeah, A.J. Brown. Keenan Allen was right there as well. So those two guys, we talked about them.
Again, Mike hates the Eagles.
Yeah. All right, we had a really fun email field. I kind of want to tee this up for you because I think this was really, really exciting. Oh, first though, actually,
Before you get that, do a little IBM Watson stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the AI-generated fantasy insight built with IBM Watsonx. This is for players that are rostered in more than 60% of leagues who have busted in 2 straight weeks. IBM has given us Jamar Chase, Field Yates. If you had the opportunity to potentially buy Jamar Chase right now, would you still do it given the Burrow injury?
You know, Mike just made me feel a little bit more confident in my stance that I would. And this is one where earlier I was talking through like a DJ Moore trade scenario where it's hard to find a 1-for-1. You might find somebody who's a bit anxious on Jamar Chase. And there might be a guy who's hovering around like wide receiver 10, 11, 12 in our weekly rankings where you could talk me into me trading that player away for Jamar Chase, and I'd be doing it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, still 6th in targets and catches.
I'm going back to the rankings.
He just hasn't scored yet.
By the way.
But yeah, especially if you need a miracle to get back in it. Like let's say you're 0-4.
Yep.
Maybe 1-3. You got to shake it up. What's
the
worst that can happen?
Are you 0-4 or 1-3 because you have Jamar Chase as opposed to trying to trade him?
I'm saying if you don't have him,
yeah.
You can maybe trade a guy that's been solid.
Bet you could,
maybe a DJ
really
Moore and something.
I was going to say, I really think somebody would consider like a Brandon Ayuk. They would offer you Jamar Chase in return for your Brandon Ayuk.
Mm-hmm.
Would you?
I would want Chase.
Same with me.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of trade that I do see happen.
Especially if I'm 1-3 or 0-4.
That's one of those scenarios where I am shooting, if you're 1-3 or 0-4, I am shooting for upside. You've been starting the safe floor play, and guess what? You're 1-3 because of it. So you got to shake it up. You got to look for some ceiling plays. And as a part of that, Jamar Chase, I'm just trusting the talent. There are some guys that I'm just trusting the talent because they're just too good. Garrett Wilson, another one of those guys. As long as they have a quarterback that is going to give them targets, I'm going to keep believing in it.
I'm a little less optimistic on Garrett Wilson just because the ceiling, I think, is much lower than Jamar Chase. Like, even in a bounce-back week last week, 9 catches for 60 yards for Garrett Wilson. But I do agree, like, the concept of 2 guys who are buy low players, I'm in on.
I think Zach Wilson scores more fantasy points than Joe Burrow this week.
Ooh, that's a great board bet right there.
Should we add that in? Should we all take one?
Oh,
How
man.
can we do this?
I will go the opposite way. I think Joe Burrow
got Joe Burrow?
outscores Zach Wilson.
Do you?
Interesting. I think it's all. I have them all together. Josh Dobbs was the other part of that, right?
It's right there.
I have all three in the same vicinity. So
It almost feels like we each get to
Unreal.
lay claim to one of them. Like Daniel
we
gets
should.
Zach
I'll take
Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
I have Joe Burrow.
And you've got Joshua Dobbs.
That is amazing.
Is that okay?
Imagine having this conversation a month ago. Though.
Yes.
I'd be like, what? All right. Like,
So
okay,
let's
Mike won that
reform
one.
this.
Like,
I say Joshua Dobbs outscores Zach Wilson and Joe Burrow in week 5.
I say Joe Burrow outscores Joshua Dobbs and Zach Wilson in week 5.
I say Zach Wilson outscores Joe Burrow and Joshua Dobbs in week 5. Put it on the board.
Put it on the board.
That is a heck of
That's
a board bet.
awesome.
That is
So
fun.
the question is, does the person who finishes third get 2 losses for that?
Yes, I think so.
And the person who finishes
Interesting.
first
Okay.
gets 2 wins.
It's 2 wins. The guy in the middle
Middle.
is
You know,
1-1.
I'm set up to fail here because if Burrow wins, it's like, yeah, okay, duh.
No,
Like,
no.
No.
Honestly, you're putting yourself.
I
You're
know,
putting
I'm
your
just-
neck
it's
out
just
there
funny.
right now
Yeah,
with how
it's-
bad he's been.
That's true.
That's
All right,
On the
this
other
is
hand,
cool.
if one of you win, it's like, wow, that was a brilliant call. Wow. Zach Wilson. Oh
I
my
can't
God.
believe I just did a board
I
bet
will go
for
buy
Zach
a Josh
Wilson.
Dobbs jersey, not from the Cardinals Pro Shop because you can't get him
'Cause you
there.
can't do it?
I will go buy a Josh Dobbs jersey if he wins this board bet for me.
You're going to have a lot of jerseys to buy. You need your
Yeah,
Bobo
you are. You need a
jersey.
Bobo
Still
jersey.
working on Bobo, but Josh Dobbs could be a little bit easier to procure, it seems.
Yeah, that's right. All right, we had a really fun thing that came up here, Field. We
Tell me
were
about it.
talking about with our buddy David Bresley. We got a guy here that listens
producer,
to the
yeah.
show. That's right. We have a commissioner and a groom
Yeah.
who is about to get married. His name is Matt Pollock. He's a big fan of the show, works here at ESPN.
Matt or Maverick?
Sorry, Maverick. Did I
gonna
say
say,
Matt?
yeah.
That's my
Mav.
bad.
The thing about
Maverick
that is that,
Pollock.
like, it's okay to mess up on names, but when someone's name is as cool as Maverick, you got to get that
you got to
right.
make sure you get the
Yeah.
Maverick in there.
Maverick.
Maverick's been trying to figure out
Yep.
who to make his groomsman.
Yes,
and
I
he's been
love
having
this.
such a hard time that you know what he did?
What do you do?
Decided to start a fantasy league. And initially it was whoever
So
wins
all
is
about
going to be
this.
my best man.
Love
now,
this.
walked back a little bit from that. I think they've decided that they're going to pick their own best man. But what we have found out, the top 4 finishers in this fantasy league will become groomsmen in Maverick's wedding. How do you feel about picking groomsmen based on how well they do in fantasy football, guys?
I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the greatest ideas I have ever heard. Moreover, the person that finishes last has to sit at the kids' table for the wedding.
Oh, that's amazing.
This is genius. I love this idea. Now, I have found, and I'm thinking back to when we got married, and like I know that I feel like the harder part wasn't choosing who we wanted to have as our groomsmen and bridesmaids. It was more, did you have the exact same number?
yeah.
And if you're one off, do you just have to go find an extra person, or if you're 2 off, like, or do you just have the imbalanced line there? I love this idea, though. I think it's great. I think that it's hilarious. I think this is the spirit of fantasy football. And Maverick, I want an invite to the wedding. I know it's asking a lot, but I would love to be there. At the very least, I'd like to send you a toast from afar.
Heck yeah, man.
I love it. That's awesome.
I think it's amazing. A really fun way to be able to make it like a spirited debate. To
It's
be like,
hilarious.
I actually care about you more, Maverick, because I'm setting my lineup better than all these yahoos.
Also, like, okay. I hope my friends out there aren't listening right now.
Oh.
Definitely got excited to be a groomsman like early in my wedding career.
Oh, yeah.
By the end of it, it was like, do I really have to be a groomsman? Like, you know, that means like getting up, like, and being more attentive during the actual wedding day itself. When you're not like being invited to a wedding with no responsibility.
Yes, no responsibility.
It's awesome.
Best part.
Yeah.
So-
the wedding starts at 4. It's like, I'll see you at 3:45.
So if you were in this league and you were 4th, like week 18
I'm tanking.
or 17,
You wanna
you're
tank.
tanking.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I
Fifth
can't-
place.
Hey, you know, it's respectable finish, not last, not sitting at the
Exactly.
kids' table, but I also
Get
like
down to 5th,
get to go to like, you know, whatever. I don't know what time of the year the wedding is, but if it's in a location where the weather is good, go have some beach beers at like noon. That sounds great.
sounds like a plan
As
to me.
opposed to having to be somewhere.
Speaking of which, does the rest of the league get invited? Like the ones that don't make it? So if you're 5th, you get invited, but you're not a groomsman?
Ooh, I think you have to be invited. Because I feel like if you're in last place and that's the worst punishment, you sit at the kids' table. Doesn't it
Oh,
feel
so
like
everyone in the middle has to be there then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably got to be a part of it.
great idea though, Maverick?
I love
A
it.
colleague of ours here at ESPN. That's so great.
Really
Awesome.
fun idea. Love being able to just hear fun fantasy ideas around other stuff in life because that's sort of the fun of it. Like we're doing this fantasy football thing because we love playing with our friends because of the relationships. And yes, we all love sports, but like I want to be able to make fun of you guys when like Mike makes a bad call and I make a bad call, and you guys, like, that's part of what we do, is that camaraderie to go back and forth with each other.
That was so nice of you when you were like, yeah, Mike makes a bad call and I make a bad call.
You're
You
over
don't make
there,
bad
Field.
calls.
Yeah, that's
I
amazing.
didn't want
Like,
to give you a bad call.
No, I trust me. I got plenty of them. I got plenty of them on my ledger. That's for sure. So.
All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. We're going to be back tomorrow. Field and I doing a Thursday Night Football preview.
Commanders and Bears.
That's right. And it's going to be our
what a
Week
doozy.
5 preview part 1. We're going to add in a few more fun things with that. So on behalf of Field and Mike Clay, my name is Daniel Dopp. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We love you. Don't forget to love each other. Be kind to yourself. And we will see you tomorrow on Thursday. Peace.
You're reminding yourself that tomorrow's Thursday?
That's a
You're
big
trying
part
to
of
keep
it.
the days
That's
straight in
exactly
your
what
head.
it is. As if I say it today, I'm going to remember it tomorrow.
All right.